The Stuff is a 1985 movie about a highly addictive substance of mysterious origin that people eat and can't get enough of, but it ends up having negative effects.
The movie also acts as a satire of consumerism. This movie gets into the story right away, where some miners find this weird white stuff seeping up out of the ground, and this old guy decides to just taste it. And the very first thing the guy thinks of is how they can sell it to people. There's a lot of humor in this movie that is there on purpose, but there's also a lot of humor that comes out of the weird acting and the weird dialogue. We meet Jason, who is a kid getting up for a midnight snack, and already, right at the beginning of the movie, there's a tub of the stuff in his fridge, and he sees it moving.
We don't get any sort of title sequence or anything. It's just a regular-ass font that pops up at some random point with a seemingly placeholder title.
Which is particularly surprising considering how much they put into the marketing of the stuff in the movie.
For today, tastes great every way. Can't get enough of the stuff.
The Stuff, the taste that makes you hungry for more.
Throughout the movie, there were little interludes of commercials for this stuff.
They feel like 80s commercials. And in a way, their production quality feels almost higher than the movie itself.
The story kind of jumps ahead with the stuff already in mass production and being extremely successful, which I kind of like how they started that way, instead of focusing on the origin of it and the people behind making it and how they became successful. I just wish they had started the movie off a little more sensibly.
The movie doesn't waste any time. Every scene directly deals with the plot.
But sometimes it goes too far, and you as a viewer are expected to fill in the gaps of things that you didn't see, that are still important. Our main character is played brilliantly by Michael Moriarty,
Of Troll fame.
playing the character David Mo Rutherford.
He acts like an idiot on purpose to kind of put people off their guard. After leaving the FBI, he became a corporate spy.
You said he puts on this act, but he's still a weirdo.
Oh, this is some place you got here, fellas. This is, gosh, that's a sweaty palm. That's two sweaty palms. Let me feel. That's another sweaty palm. Yes, sir. Hello, sweaty palms.
How do you do?
Rutherford is hired by an ice cream company to infiltrate the Stuff company and to figure out how they make it and the company's secrets. I found it odd that everybody Mo talks to seems to be willing to sit down and get to know this weirdo.
Right, his character is supposed to come off as charming, but that's not exactly the way it turns out. Like when he meets Nicole, who is the head of marketing for the company that makes the stuff.
Why is he wearing those boots with this suit?
Yeah, it looks stupid. I mean, it was the 80s. I don't know. Maybe that was the style.
Or lack thereof.
Mo's investigation leads him to a guy named Vickers who worked for the FDA and is played by Danny Aiello. Do you know about how Danny Aiello ended up in the movie?
Blackmail, I'm sure.
Larry Cohen used to hang around areas that actors would eat at, waiting to see who he would find and just ask them if they wanted to be in a movie.
All of the commercials have their own theme song for this stuff, and they're all pretty good. And the fact that they didn't use the same one for every commercial is impressive.
All the graphics that go with the commercials are really good too. Everything feels very legitimate.
I'd buy it. I liked how the one commercial even had Abe Vigoda in it.
Yeah, and the lady is the lady from the Where's the Beef commercials.
A very big fluffy bun.
Where's the beef?
Nice.
Where's the stuff?
Danny Aiello has a dog. The scene ends with Michael Moriarty leaving, and then maybe a minute later we cut back to Danny Aiello, and with no explanation he's apparently being attacked by his dog.
When the stuff starts forcing its way out of the dog's mouth, that could have been shot better.
But it's cool, so we don't really mind.
Speak for yourself. Mo's investigation leads him to the town of Stator, and everybody seems to be missing, except a postal worker and a gas station attendant. I like how all the other characters are very unclear of Mo's motivations, because he doesn't try and hide them, really, but he's so weird about it too. Like when the gas station attendant asks him why he's there, and he says,
I must have taken the wrong turn off here somewhere. This is Stator, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I guess I know somebody here. I can't remember his name.
I also thought it was funny how the attendant kept trying to get him to go into the bathroom. I assumed that was going to turn into some sort of attack. I think my favorite one was,
Don't you want to wash your hands or something? I put in a new towel.
Mo notices another car, he goes over to check it out, and out of nowhere, he gets attacked. It reminded me of the fight in They Live just because it was so goofy. He ends up recognizing his attacker as a guy named Chocolate Chip Charlie, who used to own the company that makes the stuff.
Chocolate Chip Charlie is played by Garrett Morris, who's a really old SNL actor. So Chocolate Chip Charlie and Mo Rutherford team up.
They go down to the post office, and the postal worker is even weirder than the gas station attendant.
All the actors are really funny to watch. Everyday acts are presented in an almost satirical way. It's very entertaining.
They hear the guy making some weird noises from the other room. We see the stuff coming out of this guy, and it's some cool effects. Really simple, but really effective. And then they get attacked by what they'll eventually come to call the Stuffies.
The stuff apparently makes people's structural integrity go down to nothing. You can punch holes in people, you can take their faces off. It's pretty great. And then Chocolate Chip Charlie and Mo split up. Charlie's going to the FBI, and Mo is going to continue his investigation. Then all of a sudden, we get a weird cut back to Nicole, the girl who we haven't seen in a really long time, and I had totally forgotten about, but apparently Mo has filled her in on everything, and she's on board.
It definitely feels like a scene is missing because she seems like she's been crying, thinking about her role in getting the stuff out there.
Oh, I thought you were going to say getting a role in the stuff, the movie.
In between all these scenes with Mo, we keep cutting back to Jason and his family. Jason knows something's up with the stuff, and his family doesn't believe him, and it's pretty clear that they've been changed by it.
Even before that, I would not be surprised if this family's last name was Asshole.
Yeah, I mean, his dad completely flips out when he sees him up at night trying to get some food.
The older brother's a jerk. The mom's a jerk too, when she just yells at the kids for no reason.
Oh, come on, my cereal's gonna get soggy. I'll get it when I'm done.
Do as I tell you and do it now.
Brought back traumatic memories.
I'm glad they all died.
I'm not going to agree to that because it's being recorded. Jason goes to his local supermarket.
In one of the best scenes in the movie.
So he knows the stuff is alive. Instead of going to somebody in a position of authority or somebody that could do something, he goes into the store and just starts trashing everything.
I like the way he breaks the glass in the freezers instead of opening the doors.
When he's running away from a store employee and he hits that pile of boxes and he goes down, that was pretty good.
I really liked how realistic the scene was, given that it's actually shot in a supermarket. All these people in there feel like real patrons.
He's not a very good actor.
But I feel like he fits the style of the movie.
I disagree.
Okay.
Why does some of this stuff need to be refrigerated and some of it doesn't?
That's a good question.
When he's grounded in his room and it shows his parents downstairs, I like the lighting on them. It's very ominous.
The video game that his brother's playing, what is that?
It's Zaxxon.
Okay, I don't play games.
Obviously.
Games are for children.
Speaking of games, Jason's brother is played by Brian Bloom, who today is most known for the Call of Duty series. So after this stuff, his career went 100% downhill.
He looks a lot like Greg Brady from the Brady Bunch, which I thought was kind of distracting.
Well, the two kids are actually brothers in real life.
Right, and you can tell by their weird, creepy eyes.
Jason's family wants him to eat the stuff, so he fools them by filling a container with shaving cream. But then he actually eats the shaving cream, which is disgusting.
And also he has some really cool Return of the Jedi shower curtains there. Given that he's eating shaving cream, Jason can't keep his ruse up very long and ends up running out of the house.
As Jason is fleeing his asshole family, Mo pulls up in a car because he read a story about how Jason trashed the store. So now our main character's plot lines have converged. Then they all make their way down to Georgia, which seems to be the home base of where everything is happening.
Where they get to the factory where the stuff is packaged, they shoot everything in a real factory, which really adds, again, like the scene in the supermarket, a sense of realism to everything.
It must have been so hard to shoot this movie with Michael Moriarty. Everything he's doing, part of me feels he was doing it just to try to mess everybody else up. And those looks of annoyance that people give him were probably real, and he just seems to be having a great time.
Well, it was the 80s. I'm sure he was probably on cocaine by this point. Jason gets separated from Mo and Nicole when they leave him on the plane, and he gets attacked by the stuff.
Which is dumb, because they're in the home base of this invasive stuff, and they leave him alone because he fell asleep.
Why did they bring him with them in the first place? Why didn't they drop him off somewhere else? Jason ends up hiding out in an empty tanker truck that they use to transport the stuff.
What an idiot.
Yeah, I feel that some of the actions he takes in this movie, they feel kind of genuine for a kid of his age.
And his intellect.
I feel like you're being unduly harsh. Mo and Nicole go to a hotel to spend the night. While they're asleep in bed with the light on for some reason, a bunch of the stuff starts coming out of the pillows, and we get some cool effects and some cheap effects. So then a stuffy pops in to try to finish them off, but there's some cool effects of the guy getting pushed up the wall. It's cool that they use this rotating set for just this one little scene.
Christopher Nolan saw it and said, Nicole and Mo take a truck to the site where the stuff is coming out of the ground, and Rutherford ends up stealing the truck with Jason inside of it, and they blow up the dig site.
Mo decides to drive to a castle inhabited by a paranoid paramilitary guy, and he's got all these weapons, and he's played by Paul Sorvino.
I wouldn't have thought at this point in the movie that they would introduce such a major character and does such an awesome job of being so weird, but Paul Sorvino does a really good job, and his character type is summed up perfectly in his speech when he says,
"When I was a boy, I was always the biggest and toughest and strongest and smartest and best looking. See, they want to see somebody who's lily-livered and weak and spineless just like they are. Ain't that right, FBI?"
And all of his interactions with the other characters.
And after this mission, you can reward me in a suitable fashion.
Oh, Colonel, I think you're moving in on my lady.
Well, I wouldn't worry about that, son. You'll probably be a casualty.
When they take all of his commandos back to the factory, the infiltration scene plays out like a Chris Columbus kids movie with the music and the one-liners.
For some reason, when they're storming the whole factory, they still have Jason with them.
He reacts like a real kid.
Yeah, I like when Nicole's trying to pull him away and he's like, "I want to see." It reminded me of Jurassic Park when the kid's like,
It turns out the military guy owns a radio station.
the station is run by John Oates.
So they plan a broadcast to warn people about this stuff. And finally, after being gone for so long, Chocolate Chip Charlie catches up with them. But it turns out Charlie's been taken over by this stuff. Apparently, the radio broadcast works. Everyone starts throwing it away and burning it. I like how they blow up the actual stores right next to other buildings.
We don't want to give away everything about this movie, but the last scene with Mo visiting the executives responsible for this stuff is one of my favorite scenes and is a great ending to this movie.
The miniature work was pretty cool throughout the movie.
It's not always super realistic, but it's still impressive.
Less impressive would be the compositing. It is okay at best, and most of it is pretty bad.
The Stuff is a unique movie in that it works in the way that it's supposed to as an intelligent satire horror movie with comedy elements, but it's also unintentionally funny sometimes because of how weird some of the scenes are and because of Michael Moriarty in particular, which makes this movie incredibly entertaining from start to finish. Would you agree?
For the most part, the social commentary on the dangers of consumerism and overindulgence is pretty accurate.
And the business practices of the people in charge of these large corporations. We've compared this movie to Body Melt before with the way they both are satirical, comedic horror movies, but this one is a lot more effective. If you can't get enough of our stuff, be sure to subscribe to our channel.